To order, please. Welcome, this is April 25th, 2024, Personnel Committee, and I'm going to ask Rebecca to call the roll.
Sure, Madam Chairwoman. Ms. Lakakis?
I am here.
Ward?
Yep.
Ethier?
Here.
Fine. Ray Joyce?
Here.
Kuhn?
Here.
Simpson? Drake?
Here.
And Grimm.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Excellent. So the first item on the agenda is to approve the previous meeting minutes. Anybody have time? Anybody have any issues with them?
None. I'll make a
None.
motion.
Motion by Mr. Ward, second by Mr. Kuhn. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We have current business, amending the rules and regulations for Albany County employees regarding health insurance benefits for retirees, brought to us by Dave Mayo. Welcome, Mr. Mayo.
Hey, thank you.
Counselor?
Good evening, everybody. This is just for discussion. It's going to be tabled tonight. I don't have a fiscal impact or anything yet, hopefully next month. But what this is, what I want to do with this is, in 2019, we made it 15 years to receive your health care benefits, but it was continuous. So this would be 15 years aggregate. If someone left, someone was here for 12 years, and then they can come back and get 3 years, and it would be, you need 15 years total. And the reason I want to put this forth is we trying to get more and more employees, and we're still short hundreds. So I thought this might be an incentive for people to come back and to, if they left the county, come back and work a few years. It's actually going to be 3 years. I'll go over that. You know, we've done the residency, we've waived the residency requirement, upped the pay a little bit, and we're still short. So, and a couple of wrinkles in this would be if people were to come back, they would have to work 3 continuous years in order to hit the 15 to get their health care benefits. And also, if you are a retiree, you've already made your bed, so you don't get any extra benefit, you can't come back and try to get any kind of improvement on your benefits. Like I said, I don't have a fiscal impact yet. I don't know how many people this will impact. I know Jennifer Clements here, and I hate to put her on the spot, and she probably doesn't know off the top of her head, so.
I don't know if that's something that we would get an estimate or an actuary to calculate.
Okay, all right. And I do, and if you read this, and on the bottom of the first page, I'm taking out all the part-time. It's kind of hard to tell if there's a bracket at the bottom that said if reinstatement to county service. So that goes out, all of the second page. And then the third page where it says, and be it further. So that's all out. I didn't want to deal with the part-time. And I don't know also if you have to have 3 continuous years. So if you were half-time, you'd have to have 6 years. If you had a bunch of years in the county, you left and came back, it would be kind of, I think, almost impossible to do that for part-time employees anyway. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, or, and if anybody wants to add anything, be a sponsor, just let me know.
Mr. Drake?
Dave, are you, if you're contemplating this as sort of a recruitment piece, is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah.
Have you considered offering it as sort of a sunset option for the next couple of years? You know, meaning that right now, the labor market's very tight. We're having a hard time attracting people. I think that's indisputable. You know, things could change in a couple of years where, you know, there's plenty of people looking for great jobs with the county, which I think they are. People don't know about them or whatever. And, you know, is there a way to maybe offer this? Because we don't know the financial impact yet, but, you know, if there is an impact, maybe offer this for the next couple of years and make, you know, renew it again or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, to be honest with you. I think it's hard once you give something away like that to take it back.
But you'd be, if you came in under the auspices and you returned to work, you would, you know, be covered because it was it's in your contract.
I wouldn't be in favor of doing that personally. I mean,
Okay.
if you want to add something, we can look at it. I just think that would be detrimental to the people who want to come back, you know, I think.
Anybody else?
Well, I had another question, Chairwoman.
Okay, go ahead.
Is this, but when you come back, you have to work the 3 years to get it, even if it's, you need 1 year, you gotta work 3 years.
Correct.
I like that. Thank you.
And I think that should cut down on the cost. also.
Yeah,
I just hope.
it gets buy-in, it's not like you just show up and get your
Right, you're
medical
here for a
fee.
month and you're all
Yeah.
set. No, I didn't want that.
Yeah,
So what are you saying, if a person had 14 years and left, he has to come back and work 16 years to get to 15?
He has to do
legal?
3
Two
more years. Yeah.
yeah, they gotta give something to get something.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Oh, that's.
That's what I meant. Mr. Grimm?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, Ray, did you have something?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you. So did I hear you right, that the part-time employees would not be eligible?
Correct, I took them out of it.
Thank you for waiting for the fiscal report too often. It's supposed to be on every bill that has a financial implication. That doesn't happen in this place. So I appreciate you looking toward that.
Oh, maybe we can have it next month, maybe? Putting Jennifer on the spot.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anybody else? Jennifer?
Anybody else have any questions?
As I said, if anybody has any additions, you want to add anything to it you think would be relevant, let me know, or if you want to be a sponsor, let me know.
All right.
I'd
do I
like to be
need-
a sponsor.
Do I need a motion to table it?
No,
or
it's tabled,
It's
request for
tabled.
sponsor.
Okay, we're done. Thank you very much, Dave.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right,
I want to
moving
do
on
this
to
before.
number 3. Item number 217, amending the rules and regulations for Albany County employees regarding comp time.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do here is, I think, make something that I think is unfair, fair. I mean, we have a situation now where people who have their regular hours, work week is 35 or 37 and a half, my understanding, have to work 40 in order to earn comp time. And that seems to me to be unfair, that, you know, you shouldn't have to work an extra 5 hours beyond your regular work week to earn comp time. So that's what this change is.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, Mr. Drake?
What, I'm not familiar, what happens now if you work 40 to 44 hours, you know, as a 40-hour contract employee? What happens to that? You get paid overtime, you don't get anything, you do, it's like, what, how does it work?
Well, some of the union contracts, you do get overtime.
If you work 40 hours, you're automatically eligible for comp time, if you are comp time eligible otherwise. It's for those who work between 35 and 40, or 39 and however many change hours. Those people currently, they have to work an additional 5 hours before they become eligible for comp time. So these are not overtime eligible people, to my knowledge.
That's correct.
So these are people who comp time is an additional benefit above and beyond the salary. So this would change for that group of people who work 35 or 37.5 or any number below 40. It would get them to, so that they don't have to wait until 40 to get the comp time eligibility. They could just work their normal work schedule as permitted by their contract or whatever arrangements they have with their department, and then they would be eligible for the comp time.
But, so the person in the 35-hour, if it's okay to address council, if it's 35 hours a week now and you have to get to 40, what happens with that 5 hours
Free.
until you
They
get to
work
40?
for free.
They don't get, they're not eligible for any compensation during that time.
Okay. And so how do they get to a 35-hour work week in the first place versus 40?
I believe it's dependent on department needs. So, I mean, and everyone has different lunch schedules and whatnot along with that to make up for the time. So it really depends, for people who are competitively bid, which this does not apply to, those people have, it's all laid out in their contracts, but for otherwise, I believe, and Jen can, I probably opine on this, I believe it's just based on department needs and requirements.
It is preset by the departments as to what is their standard work week, whether they are a 35-hour, 37 and a half, or 40-hour work week. If someone could be a 35-hour work week with a 1 hour unpaid lunch, so they're technically there 40 hours, but it includes a unpaid 1 hour lunch.
So is it possible then that a 40-hour a week person gets an hour off for lunch every day or a half hour? Is it half hour? What's the standard, do you know? Is there a
It
standard?
varies by department and department needs for coverage, so you could have a half hour or an
So if you get a half hour off, you get paid for 40, but you can eat at your desk, go to lunch, whatever you want, right? So technically, you're only working for 37 and a half. Is that why it's,
Or 35.
Or 35.
The 1 hour.
so if I'm a 35-hour employee, do I also get lunch off of that? Or you're saying it's built in? Like, I'm really working 37 and a half or 40 because my lunch is not included in my rate of requirement, or my required hours. Am I making sense?
So,
You're adding back the time?
I'm credited, so for example, your work week is 35 hours, you have a 1 hour unpaid lunch. So you're here 8:30 to 4:30, say. So you're technically here 40 hours, you're paid for 35, but you wouldn't accrue, under this scenario, comp time until you have worked 40 hours. So technically, your unpaid lunch doesn't count towards hours worked.
Right. So what I mean is, so if I go to lunch as a 35-hour-a-week employee, I don't get paid for it, I clock out, I go to lunch. If I'm a 40-hour-a-week person that you said might have an hour lunch, I stay on the clock for 40, but I can take an hour for lunch, and it's the same thing? Is that, are they the same employee?
There are some in that situation where they're the paid 1 hour lunch, but then there are people who are technically here 45 hours, they work 40, and they have a 1 hour lunch unpaid, they'll say.
Okay.
So
So either way, by contract, their pay is based on X amount of hours. And then when they take lunch, the majority of people sounds like clock out to do that or don't get paid for it.
Or it's automatically deducted.
Yeah, or automatically deducted, okay. Right.
We good?
Yeah, I have another question on it, but,
All right, we'll let you have one more.
all right. So what I think, and it is hard to have this conversation in a room full of people who are affected by this, and I don't mean to offend anybody with these questions, but, I mean, to be honest, right, it's just kind of weird. But, I think this kind of like reduces everything to the lowest common denominator, which is 35 hours a week of required work, right? So my concern with that is, and I don't know this answer, so I'm asking, is that 35-hour work week a negotiated position that has come about? And now we're changing that negotiated position to give them the same benefits as someone who negotiated a 40-hour work week?
No, it's
No.
not, because, again, it's all by department, there's nothing negotiated about it, this doesn't apply to anyone who has a negotiated contract.
Mhm.
So we can use me because this doesn't apply to me because I'm not comp time eligible regardless. 8:30 to 4:30, our lunch is automatically deducted whether I take it or not.
Mhm.
So it's a 35-hour week. There's no negotiability in that, unless my department as a whole changes it for my entire department, that will not change. I have no say, I guess perhaps I do have say because I'm a department head, but it's a little different. No one in my department has a say in negotiating any different hours or anything like that. That's just not done because it's a non-negotiable position.
Do you then, would it be, no, could you tell me, so if somebody gets hired for a 35-hour-a-week full-time job and a 40-hour-a-week full-time job, is there a pay difference in that?
I would imagine, yes. I can't speak to exactly that because, again, I'm not HR, but I was
Because to me,
just
that
offering-
matters.
Mhm.
Because if I get to come to work and I'm gonna make this up, $20,000 a year, and one guy works 35 hours and one lady works 40 the whole time, I shouldn't expect to get paid extra if, two different people are getting the same salary for two different
Well,
required
I
work.
don't think that is the case because it goes
Yeah.
department by department, so everyone in the department would be working generally the same number of hours. Unless they are unionized and otherwise competitively
And it doesn't apply to
negotiated.
unionized contracts.
No, this does not apply
Correct.
to union.
So is this a fairly small section of our, how many people does this affect? I'm not putting you on the specific spot, but
we have that
roughly, do we know?
All right, Mr. Drake, this is your last question.
It is small, but it is also not changing people's hours. Just to be clear, or
No, I know.
or compensation.
It's just if they stay longer for whatever reason, they can begin accruing comp time.
And to be clear, comp time is only at the discretion of the supervisor. It's not something where you can just stay after hours and automatically get comp time. It has to be.
You have to be
approved by-
asked to do that.
Yeah, it has to be for work that you are directed to do and all of that.
Fair enough. Thank you for answering these questions.
I got Mr. Kuhn and then Mr. Ethier.
Okay, so we have county employees who work 35, 37 and a half, or 40 hours a week. And I know there's probably other things, but let's just take those three examples. Those people are paid salary so someone was hired to work 35 hours a week is paid a salary for working, and their job is to work 35 hours a week. Somebody else is paid a salary to work 40 hours a week. Sometimes people who work 40 hours a week have to work more than 40 hours a week because there's work to be done that takes more than 40 hours. And when they do that, they are paid comp time above and beyond their salary for the time over 40 hours. That seems fair. Other people who we've agreed only need to work 35 hours a week and are paid a salary for working 35 hours a week, if their job requires them, because there's extra work to do, to work 36 or 37 or whatever, more than 35, they are being asked, just like the person who's working more than 40, to work more than their standard salaried time. So it seems to make all the sense in the world when here are your normal hours and here's your salary. For 35, here's your same thing for 40. As soon as you're asking someone to work more than what their normal time is, that the principle is they should be compensated for that. So if that's the principle for somebody who works 40, if their normal thing is 40 and they're working 41, that principle should apply if someone's working 35 and they're asking to work 36 or 37. I mean, this seems straightforward and just a matter of basic fairness of applying the principle to everybody. So, I think it makes all the sense in the world.
That's what I'm proposing.
Thank you, Mr. Coon. Mr. Ethier?
Jeff has mentioned everything I was thinking about too.
All right then.
Yeah.
Perfect. Mr. Grimm?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have many private sector employees that their standard work week is 40 hours, okay? I understand the logic, it's sound logic then is talking about that Jeff talked about. But the bigger picture is here, the private sector, which supports all of government, has a standard work week of 40 hours. And we have many employees have a standard work week of 35 hours, and we don't know how that was negotiated or if the bump up to the comp time starting at 40 was part of that agreement, part of that arrangement. My question would be simply, how is this in the interest of my constituents that we're giving more time off to county employees? Because that's what we're talking about, we're giving more time off.
How? What? What do you mean, more time off? I don't understand that at all.
If they're not getting the time off for 35 to 40 and they're going to get that, that's 5 hours from 35 to 40. That's
Compensating them for extra time,
You're
Right now-
Only
compensating them
if
for
they
the
work
time
extra
they're
time.
working.
if they work extra.
Only if they work extra
Pre-approved
time.
You really haven't answered my question.
I don't understand it.
Can I step in? I think
Yeah.
what you're trying to say, if I can follow this, just to be helpful. I think what you're saying is they're gonna get vacation time that they can use. And what he means is, if you come in 35, you get 5 hours of comp time, now you can come in 30 next week. Is that kind of what you're saying? So that
Well,
you're giving more
They're
vacation
getting
time
more-
as a result?
They're going to get more time
I'm
off. than they get-
I don't have a horse in this part, but.
They're getting more time off than they would get now based on the provisions of this resolution.
So you're gaining vacation time, I think that's what he's saying. You're gaining vacation.
Okay, fellas?
Can I just make a quick comment on that?
Yeah.
I don't believe I'm trying to, and Jen maybe can help me here. I think there's something in the language of our employment handbook that states that comp time cannot be used as vacation time. Am I correct on that?
It can't be used in greater than 2 consecutive days.
Okay.
But that's changing according to the language of this resolution. It was limited to 2 days, but that restriction's been taken out. That's my understanding.
No,
So,
okay.
comp time. Jennifer?
It is, actually it is.
She's got to get on.
Commissioner Clement, come to the table.
Got the call.
All right, let me know if this is wrong. To me, comp time is time that you have worked, that you can take off at another time, or sometimes get paid for. Both or one.
Is that correct?
You're not paid for comp time.
Correct. Good, that's what I was hoping you were going to say.
You're
this
paid-
is just time.
Let me correct that though. You are paid for it when you use it because it would be part of your standard work week then.
And you could accrue a certain amount of it, at which time it disappears. If it achieves to be too high, it has to be, there's timeframes and other rules that apply to using the comp time. So there's already a lot of strings attached to comp time.
Yes.
So I'm gonna agree with Mr. Kuhn, that it is leveling the playing field for the people who work 35 hours and are asked, who have children and families to take care of and lives to lead and made a commitment to work 35 hours, that they should get some time off if they worked 39 hours last week. And the same thing for the people with 40 hours. It's just applying the same principle of fairness to all of our employees that have not, been negotiated for them from anybody else. So I think I'm clear.
Well,
Well, how does it benefit your constituency, you
Yeah.
wanted to know? It
Well, if any of them-
helps the county to run better, it helps the people in the nursing home to get care, it helps the people on probation to have people checking in with them. It helps,
It
like,
doesn't
all
though,
the,
because they're taking more time off. So how does that help with care?
because they
They're
had to
taking more
be there
time
to
off.
do the time, somebody's in a nursing home, they need to be cared for.
Yeah, and then those people are out on comp time.
Well, if, let's say your constituents work for the county government, they're being treated fairly, so that helps them, right?
Well, fairness is depending on where you're sitting. But I just want to point, the 2-year restriction, according to what I read here, the 2-day restriction is being lifted. Is that correct, Jennifer?
In the proposed language.
Yeah, yeah. So they can use it basically for a week or two of vacation. Basically, comp time is vacation unless there's any restrictions on comp time, which I don't think there is, other than
Well,
supervisor.
if I may, Mr. Grimm,
Yeah.
the distinction here between vacation time and comp time has a much lower limit threshold than vacation time. And also, comp time has no cash value at separation. There's no, the hours themselves, you are not entitled to cash payouts in the way that you would be for vacation time. Now, the other check on this would be the fact that this is only able to be accrued when your department head or supervisor approves it. It needs to be work that the department needs to meet the needs of, whatever their particular operation is for that pay period. So that will also put a limit on how much can be accrued for any individual.
First of all, there's still time off. Is there a cap on how much comp time you can have?
Yes,
What is it?
70.
70 hours?
70 hours.
Okay.
But
Which is about
Hang on.
110 less than it used to be.
Mr. Drake. and
I have a
then
question
Mr.
for the
Kuhn.
sponsor then.
Okay.
With this
A
conversation.
question? I'd love to hear a question.
Mr. Feeney,
Yes.
it does appear that 2D, as Mr. Grimm pointed out, removes the 2 consecutive day compensatory time credit limit. It appears you're making it unlimited with this. Is that true?
No, I don't think it's unlimited because based on what Brandon just said, it's still the department head has to approve it.
Right, but as far as from a handbook standpoint, up to 70 hours, you could theoretically use it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Would there be any, would you consider, to be in support of this, which I would be, just keeping the cap? Because I feel like that kind of keeps people a little bit more engaged with, like to Mr. Grimm's opposition, that might help a lot by just removing that and just keep that rule the way it was unless there's some really dire reason to remove that.
I think it just provides more flexibility if you don't have that in there, but, I'm open to what the committee thinks.
Because compensatory time is earned incrementally anyway, right?
Right.
So maybe using it incrementally isn't a terrible imposition.
Do they lose it at the end of the year, do they lose it, or do you hang on to it?
After 70.
I mean, if you don't use it in a year, do you lose the comp time, or does that roll over year to year?
You can roll over, it'll roll over year to year in the same way that vacation accruals will roll over or sick time accruals will roll over. It's just that the caps for the different classes of time are different. So 70 hours for comp time, vacation has, forgive me, Commissioner Clement, I don't know if it's 6 or 13 weeks depending on when you were hired for vacation. But generally speaking, it's only 70 hours for comp time.
Jen, what happens to the 35-hour salary employee who stays a couple hours over? What do they get for that? Do they get any-
Nothing.
Nothing down. That's what we're trying to do.
That's what we're trying to ameliorate right here.
They don't get
We're trying
nothing?
to fix that. They get nothing until they hit 40, at which time it starts to accrue. So they have to work 45 hours in order to
Well, that's
have
crazy. I
comp time.
mean, they're not worth talking about.
So would it be possible to take 2D out of there and vote yes for the rest of this? Because I feel like we're conflating two separate things here. I think, just my personal opinion, I think it's a great idea what you come up with on the other part, but this kind of like adds like a bit much. So just my personal take.
Sean, then Dennis?
Yeah, Mr. Dre, I get what you're saying, and that's the way it has been, but I also know of many people who were separating from county service, retiring, where they got stuck, and if this was in place, wouldn't be able to use their earned comp time. You know, they take 2 days, they go for 2 days, work for a day and come back.
Couldn't there just
There's
be
pros
like
and, there's pros and cons to it.
flexibility for that in a retirement situation or
Well,
something?
not if we have it in the handbook. That's,
Well, we're
I
talking
think
about a
that-
week and a half,
I
But this
think
opens
that's
it
the
up for all
reason.
ages as opposed to just your.
right? 70 hours, 2
Well, what?
weeks?
All groups or age groups or people in, you know,
Yeah.
versus just somebody in your, that makes sense what you're saying, you know?
Yeah, you know, I've been around the government for 40 years. It happens where you got real good employees that have comp time, and if you have a restriction on them, you know, they kind of get stuck. It's really unfair for them not to be able to use it in the end because of a restriction like that. But on the other hand, you know, comp time is not supposed to be used for vacation, so there's pros and cons to both ways.
You could use the comp and then keep your
Yeah,
PTO.
I think the fact that we do have, there is somewhat of restriction in place because department head has to approve, number one, the additional work that allows them to accrue comp time. And they also have to, I believe, Commissioner, they have to approve the use of comp time.
And
So
this does
any-
put,
or
this
any-
puts
or
it
any
back
time.
on the
Approve use of vacation
supervisors.
time, too.
You know, if
Or
it's
any
better
time.
for the department that the person takes 3 days off in a row, or 5, or up to 10, like maybe the department, the supervisor would prefer that. This gives more, that's, my only remark was that it leaves to the supervisor more flexibility to run.
I get it. I mean, I'm just suggesting a compromise position. I think this is a nice way to make things equitable. Maybe we make this forward. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of a way to, you know, like, there's always a negotiation in all of this that, you know, could be arrived at.
We should think of,
Dennis?
we should think of a way to apologize to all the workers that at 35, they did 2 or 3 hours later and got nothing.
We tried
Shame on us
last
for
year.
letting it go on like that. I'm a union person, these are salary people. They would never go with union people. You work, you get paid. These people with 35 hours, 1 extra hour or 3, got nothing. We should be ashamed of ourselves.
Well, Gil, to be clear,
Thank
what
you,
I'm
Gil.
talking
Now,
about is the use of
Mr.
time.
Drake, we're gonna hear from Mr. Feeney. What are you thinking?
No, I don't think I want to make that change.
Okay.
I think the department heads are the ones that are going to be able to tackle that problem.
Okay, so, where are we now?
I'll move
Thank
to move this out with favorable recommendation.
We have a motion? Second from Mr. Ward. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nope. Try. Okay, next we have. Keep it down to a dull roar, my men. It's good to be the only woman, let me tell you. So we have amending the rules and regulations for Albany County employees regarding changes to accruals and health coverage. And as I understand it, we're just gonna be talking about this evening. So, does anybody have any questions for, Jen Clement is here, thank you very much, we really appreciate it. Do you wanna introduce your proposal?
So there's several proposed amendments here. I can go through each one.
Sure.
If you'd like. The first one is discussing surviving spousal coverage, and that is for retirees and continued coverage. Right now, we have a rule that sunset the continued coverage for a surviving spouse. And that would mean that anyone hired after September of 1999 would require 30 years of service for their spouse to have continued coverage. Should they, the retiree predecease the spouse. So this would be reverting back to the prior rule, which extended coverage to the surviving spouse.
What was that prior to, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
what was it prior to 99?
So this rule was, if you were hired prior to 99, you had to have 15 years in order to be eligible for continued coverage. It sounds odd that it's 15 and then we recently amended to 15,
Yeah.
but the rule, because you really would have needed 20, but this rule was in place. So you needed a minimum of 15 in order to provide continuation of coverage for your surviving spouse. After October of 99, you would then need the 30. So we're just kind of now hitting that because 20 years after October of 99, we just saw a few recent retirees who were impacted by that change.
How about we take questions on this section before we go to the next section? Is that amenable? Does anybody have any questions about this section? Mr. Demolowitz?
Is there anything we're doing for the long-term employee who has more than 30 years? Do they benefit in any way?
It's already in place.
They already have continued coverage for their
Right,
surviving
but now
spouse.
we're cutting it back to 15, right?
No, this is saying, so they already have the 15, so this is retirees of, that were hired after October of 99 would then have to have 30 years. So anybody hired before that is still within that 30-year window, so they already had met that threshold. So this is basically saying we're trying to eliminate that second section within rules and regulations that changed the rule. It basically sunset the 15-year rule, changed it to 30. So we want to revert back.
Make it permanent?
Yes, make the 15-year a permanent coverage and eliminate that second section that changed it to 30.
All right, anybody else have any questions on this section only?
Yes,
Mr.
this
Drake?
section only.
Question?
What is the cost to the employee on retirement for the annual plan? Is there a specific piece that they continue to pay?
The employee share is the same contribution rate as they're currently paying.
Okay.
So if they pay 10%, then they would pay 10% into retirement. We do have a few collective bargaining agreements with other payment arrangements, but by and large, employees pay what the rate that they paid while they were employed.
So if it's a spousal, well, this is,
No, same question?
yeah, there's a spousal coverage, we're paying double, right, because it's two-person right now. And I think we're talking about surviving spouse, correct? So in that case, does the county then pay a one-person policy, and then the surviving spouse steps down their percentage and pays that? Is that how that works?
Well, it's a percentage, so if they're paying 10%, then they would pay 10% of an individual plan.
Yeah, but we change our plan at that point, it's a one-person plan.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, shall we move on? Are we good?
Can I,
This section? Okay, no, we're not.
I just
Okay.
thought of one. We still, when our employees retire, they do not get dental benefits? Is that true, or, because I just heard that, I've been here 29 years, and I think I just learned that about 5 years ago,
So
which is the cheapest form of health insurance.
So we do not provide dental coverage to our standard health plan between ages 55 and 65. However, under Medicare Advantage, anybody 65 and over qualifies for the dental covered under Medicare Advantage, which includes dental coverage. Employees are eligible to purchase through COBRA the continued dental coverage.
Thank you.
But dental is our cheapest form of insurance, correct?
Covers nothing, but go ahead.
Are we talking about dental?
It's part of the health insurance benefit that we're retiree health insurance, yes.
I don't know the reason it was carved out, but it was carved out of retiree benefit. I don't know about the cheapest, it's inexpensive, yes.
It was carved out because Sheriff Infante must not have heard about it. If anybody was around here when he was around would know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I really have a hard time, after I heard that, and I really forgot about it, to be honest with you. But, you know, we have our retirees who are offering full health benefits, our retirement benefits, but we cut their dental out at a time when they probably need it the most, from 55 to 65. I don't know, I'd love to see what the cost benefit of that is to fill that gap for 10 years.
All right, well, maybe we'll find that out and.
Well, I think it's pertinent to what we're talking about
It
here.
is.
That's why I
It
brought it up.
definitely is. I'm just looking at all the people staring at me because they want to come to the next meeting, so I'm just trying to move us forward. It's not that I'm not interested.
I just wanted to bring it up,
Oh,
that's all.
I think
I'm
it's
good.
great. Do you
I'm
think we
done.
can get that information?
Yes, that's
Okay,
a
sweet.
fairly easy calculation.
Are we good with this one now? Can we move on to the second item on the, all right. Go ahead, Jen.
So, the legislature in 2013 had passed a resolution to reduce the cashable vacation accruals. And what this proposal is looking to, it reduced it to 30 days of unused vacation time. We're looking to rescind that resolution and restore back to the maximum cash of 13 weeks upon separation from service.
And that's already in the budget, correct?
It is built into the budget because each individual's payout is also accounted for in their personnel line, or we also established accrued liability lines in several departments. And so the need to have restricted the amount people could cash out upon separation kind of dissipated with that creation of those lines.
Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Grimm?
Madam Chair, so currently if you leave, you cash out with 6 weeks, the 30 hours is,
30 hours.
and now it's going to 13 weeks? So how, by doubling the vacation pay on the way out, isn't that an incentive to lose employees? It's an incentive to leave, because you got a bigger cash out.
The intent is that an individual would then not use their time. It would be an incentive to save your time knowing you could cash it out as opposed to using the accruals while you're working. You could save or bank time and that it would be cashable as opposed to maintaining that lower threshold knowing you were losing time that wasn't going to be cashable.
You said in 2013 we reduced it to 6 weeks.
Yes,
I'm sure that's
30 days.
30 days. They were, 6 weeks, it's 5 days weeks. Now it's going to be more than double. Was there any give back? One of the things that frustrates me about all of this stuff is the management workforce, it's a give and take. You get a little, you get, all I'm seeing now is we're giving a lot. Are there any circumstances here where there's been give backs on these benefits which are going to cost a lot of money over a long period of time?
Well, I just want to be clear, this is employees hired after March of 2013. So employees who were hired prior to that are still allowed to cash out 13 weeks of accruals.
Okay.
So this is restricted just to those employees hired after 2013. And individuals, we didn't change the rate of accrual, so people, as they build those accruals, are being forced to use them, maybe unnecessarily, but they're still earning at the same rate. So now we are catching up to that 10 years down the road. Individuals are earning accruals at a high rate, but they're restricted on their payout.
Well, the 13 weeks, I mean, that's a quarter of a year's salary that will be handed.
And it's accruals they've earned. So this isn't reducing that earning, it's just it would basically just have
But Jen,
thrown away
how many
accruals
weeks
earned.
can it include? 15 weeks? 13?
13.
13?
13 weeks.
No way.
To
They
me,
don't accrue 13 weeks in one lump sum. There's an accrual rate based on your years of service. You earn an amount per year. And you then, even further, you earn an amount per week. It's broken down by week. So you're earning incrementally at a set amount.
Being a union person all my life and worked with companies, that government has ruined that whole thing. The argument with getting time off and vacation was for the employee to use it. Government turn around and now you can save it and bail out with it. That should never have been allowed to begin with. You fight for this time off, benefits and stuff, you should take them. Otherwise you lose it. But I know we can't correct that.
Okay,
So I
enough
think
about
that's
that
unbelievable.
No, you can correct that.
Hang on, I got one more idea.
No,
I'm good.
yeah, this is,
You're
it's
good.
6 weeks now. So
All right,
this
Mr.
is provided
Demalowitz,
for.
hey, Gil, I can't see you. Are you done?
Yes, I'm sorry, sure. I
No,
didn't
I-
mean to jump without raising my
No,
hand. I'm
it's
sorry.
it's quite all right.
Just a little history of where this all came from. In '96, when Sue Tatro left service, when Hoblock left service, she had hundreds and hundreds of hours, because she never took time off. She worked, was a county attorney, I think she was. She worked countlessly, and she, deservingly so,
She
not that
did
she
work.
got it, but that's when we implemented the restrictions on the accrual time.
But also you didn't put it aside in the budget, correct? And so by putting the money aside in the budget as it's accrued, it's a liability that's, it's accounted for. So it's not a surprise. It's there, it's sitting there because the person earned it and it's a liability. Whereas maybe then it wasn't sitting there waiting to be spent. So, I think we're covered, but Sean wants to talk, so go ahead.
Well, no, I think you just said it. I think, don't we normally let the line run out before we hire a new employee? So if somebody separates today and they have 4 weeks of vacation, don't we, that's salary for 4 weeks and then we start to hire? That's always been the practice here.
We will hold a line except departments that have created an accrued liability line,
Okay.
where they have a need to fill
If they need,
immediately.
yes.
Then they can utilize that line.
Okay.
You have to have the money.
But we
Shall
have
move
that,
on?
that is budget, everything is budgeted, don't?
Yes.
Shall we move on?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Ms. London, number 3.
Sorry, there's so many. The third one is to add a paid parenting leave. We right now have this incorporated in one collective bargaining agreement, and this is proposing the first 6 weeks of the employee's FMLA would be paid, as opposed to charging their accruals.
I just personally had a question.
Yep.
It says something about if there's two employees in a family who are at the same time wanting the time, that they could take it one at a time. Does that mean within the period, or does it mean simultaneously? Like if my spouse wanted to take 2 weeks off and I want to take 2 weeks off, we couldn't take the same 2 weeks, but could we take 2 weeks within the period of time that a new family member, we would qualify?
Yes, it could be done back to back.
Okay, but not simultaneous, is that what that sentence meant?
There is a provision within Family Medical Leave Act that compensates for that, especially in a small employer or smaller department where you have two individuals
The 20 and out.
simultaneously absent. It allows for that. However, this is suggesting that.
It's not
we would-
desirable.
Right.
Okay, sweet. Anybody else have a question? Mr. Drake?
Is this covered by what we pay in for family medical leave, so the county gets compensated in some way then for this time that's given out? Is that how that works? I'm ignorant to how that piece works, that's why I'm trying
So,
to.
I think you're referring to paid family
Yeah.
leave under state law. We are not a participant in the paid family leave. Employees are not contributing into a paid leave. We are, this is just proposing that the first 6 weeks of a paid leave for the birth, adoption, or placement of a child would be paid. This is different than a paid family leave.
But why, so my employees have to do this, like, we can't get any exemptions, even if they have no kids, they're 112 years old. Why is Albany County not also required to contribute or have employees contribute to the paid family leave piece?
It is optional for government employers, and we opted out because we have a paid accrual program.
But then we shoulder the cost as opposed to the,
They
Paid family
pay an amount, it is not paid in its entirety by the employee, and it's also not full pay. for
no,
the
I know that, but I'm
absent
saying in this
employee.
case, there's no offset from the employee, they're not paying into anything. They're just getting it,
It is not for FMLA in its entirety, it is only for birth, adoption, and placement of a child.
yes, but I'm saying there's no payout from the employee and they're, like, there's no like contribution or anything. It's just a benefit. It's like a straight benefit, right?
It's a straight benefit.
It's benefit, yes. Okay, anybody else? Mr. Grimm?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Your
So
question?
I'm a little unclear. What's our paid parental leave right now? Isn't there state or federal requirements at all? Or if you have to go, or as you said, you have to opt in to the state program? What's our current program?
So we provide FMLA, paid or unpaid. So you can utilize your accruals or not, or choose to hold your accruals.
By accruals, you mean they have some time, so
We
they
have
use that?
time.
And
Comp
they can either
time.
go unpaid or use that time for the pay. And how long does that last?
It's 12 weeks.
Okay.
2 days.
And this proposal would do what for
Pay the first 6 weeks of
first six?
that.
The county would pay?
Correct.
And is the idea here also recruitment?
It is,
It is?
and retention.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? All right, one more.
So this
two more,
mirrors
sorry.
the previous resolution for comp time for hours worked in excess of the standard work week.
Yeah, well, let's skip this one.
We
Okay.
can skip
Is the
I'd
that.
like to make a motion
Is that the
that I'd
same
like to
one?
accept it, that we'll skip this one. Let's go to number 5.
But is
No, I know.
it the same
Why is
resolution?
It's the same as Mr. Mayo's, pretty much.
Oh,
Mr. Feeney.
Mr.
Or
Feeney.
Mr.
I mean,
Feeney.
Feeney.
Well, what's the
Sorry.
why are we having it in both bills
I
then?
can't say.
Because they were introduced at different times by different people.
So is one of them disappearing?
Most likely.
Well, yeah, one will be successful and one will not be successful. Yes, they can't obviously both be successful.
I don't know. I mean, if there's differences, that's what I'm asking. I mean, I think that's what we're asking, is just are there differences or are they identical?
I believe they're the same.
They are identical.
Okay.
Okay. So, we're agreed they're the same. Let's go on. Thank you.
So the last one is regarding a donated leave program to include sick leave accruals. The reason this is being proposed is that right now you cannot donate sick time. And so what we're proposing is that individuals who have accruals, in excess of accruals, that they may donate those to other employees. Right now, it's limited and does not permit accruals, sick accruals to be donated.
Anybody have any questions on that one? Mr. Ward?
What is our cap on sick time accrual?
I believe it is 65 days.
65? It's not a lot if you're sick. Used to be
I'm saying
100,
that, and I'm
used to
so
be
sorry.
180 I do it, or something like that.
Along the lines of
I
your
mean, do you
question,
mean
how
to
does
carry
13
over
weeks
or to
play into
have?
it then?
I'm sorry?
So when how does the 13 weeks play into it if they have to have more than 13 weeks? It sounds like it's almost the same number.
I think what the commissioner's proposing, that you can only donate anything in excess of 13 weeks. So you gotta keep 13 weeks on the books, is that what you're saying?
That would only be 6 days difference then.
Well,
No.
still,
So
if
you
had-
earn accruals through the year. The cap occurs at the end of the year where it's cut off, but you could earn accruals. Someone who is maxed on their accruals could then earn 13 days within that year, and they could donate those days knowing to another employee in need.
What happens to those days if they don't donate?
They may lose days. I'm saying 65, but I'm so sorry, I need to, Just double check.
It's all right, there is a cap on it, I guess is the point I was making.
there is.
Okay, so basically, they have to reach a threshold of 13 weeks
13.
before they're allowed to donate, in case, obviously, if they get sick and leave, so, I
So
would
it's
assume.
Just as a safety
washes,
net.
it's that, it
Yeah.
all falls out in the wash.
Yeah.
Because they accrued it, so it's a liability for us, and it's just somebody else that's going to use it rather than them, so.
I'm sorry, it's 165 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right, yeah, I do, it used to
So
be
we're not
180
extending
at
the
one
cap,
time.
we're allowing them to use it. Yeah.
That's my apologies.
Why 13 weeks? Why not allow, if you're ill, why can't I give you my time now? What's the idea behind that?
Oh, so 13 weeks is actually under 41J of the New York State Retirement benefit. So 13 weeks, when you leave service, if you have 13 weeks of sick time, it's cashable for years of service. And so the reason I'm suggesting we hold that 13 is so that you conceivably retire from county service and have that cash flow. So we pay for 41J. It is a half a percent per year. And that 41J then, we would be, shifting that, what we're paying for that benefit to have it upon retirement, we would be eliminating it. Something we're already paying for. So the 13 weeks would be the max, and then conceivably also 13 weeks is in keeping with FMLA. If you needed to take a 12-week absence under FMLA, you would be within that ability to still do that and not having given it away. So individuals who have an excess of that amount of time could donate it.
I knew you were going to put your hand up. There's no way
Just,
around that.
yeah, thanks, Madam Chair, appreciate your kind words. Just so I'm clear, the 65 days you can't touch is the safety net, basically, for the employees, so they can't give it to anyone for that reason. Is that really the rationale?
It is a safety net and also a benefit under 41J.
But they can accrue well beyond 65, 165 days, you said?
Yes.
So there's a potential 100 days they could give out to someone who's sick or something.
Yes.
Thank you.
Are we good? We need a motion to table this.
Make that motion.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second?
I'll throw this for an hour and a half. and you can't-
Why are we taking?
Well, the financial impact's not here, but.
Well, the
Do we
financial
need a second?
impact?
Mr. Joyce, thank you.
Not voting on it, sorry.
All in favor?
And I thought it was a joke line for the
All in favor to table the motion?
Aye,
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
motion.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Jen, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And-
See you, Gil.
Thank you.